All right, good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining our July onX Hunt 101 Masterclass. We'll get going in just a couple of minutes here. We want to give everybody time to get logged in and get situated and everything. So give me one moment. I'm going to pull up the agenda for the class. We'll go through that while everybody's getting ready. So before we get into the agenda, a couple housekeeping items. Your audio and video are turned off, so we can't see or hear you. So no worries if you have noise in the background. If you do have a question, please open up the Q&A bar down, should be along the bottom of your screen. That Q&A box is the spot for the questions. We've got a couple of our customer support team members in there answering those. We'll get to as many as we can. We can't guarantee we'll answer all of them if they're coming in real fast, but we'll do our best. The chat is also there. Chat is great if you just want to, let us know who you are, where you're tuning in from, or if you want to chat with somebody else, in the class. That's what it's there for. Chat is not the place for questions. They do get lost in there, and there's not really a good way for us to answer them in the chat. That's why the Q&A bar is there. This class is being recorded, so we will send you an email tomorrow evening with the link to the YouTube video. We'll have it uploaded to the onX Hunt YouTube channel mid-morning sometime, and you'll get that email in the afternoon. So if you have to drop off early, you want to watch a portion you missed, or you just want to go back and re-watch something or send it to a buddy who needs to learn more about using onX, you'll have that link tomorrow. We are doing a giveaway at the end of the class. We're going to give away some onX Hunt swag. So that giveaway link will be posted in the chat towards the end of the class. So you do have to be present to enter to win that. And then we'll draw the winners tomorrow morning and notify those folks as well. And I do want to give a plug for our customer support team. If you do have a question that maybe just isn't quite right for this class, like if you have anything that's pertaining to your account, by that I mean anything to do with, hey, I don't remember what my password is, when's my renewal date, anything billing wise or anything where we would have to pull up your individual account. It's just going to be tough to do that in this class. We don't really have the bandwidth. But if you shoot us an email, our email address is help, HELP, at onxmaps.com. You can expect a response, if you send an email tonight, you can expect a response tomorrow, and just kind of put that into your phone or write it down for future reference. If you ever do have questions, you need help with something, help at onxmaps.com is the spot for that. So, all right, looks like we got quite a few people rolling in. So the agenda for tonight, we're going to start off talking about our membership options, how they differ, what each of them means, and what one might be right for you. Then we're going to dive into the app. We'll talk about map layers. We'll spend quite a bit of time going over those. We'll talk about offline maps and how to use the app when you don't have cell phone service. We'll go over waypoints, some of the other map tools, the location button and compass mode, some cool things there. Then we'll pop over to the onX web map on the computer to talk about some of our different base map and imagery options. We'll go over how to do a search, whether that's a search for GPS coordinates or somebody's names or a landmark. And then we'll save some time at the end for some Q&A and that giveaway. So let's talk about membership options. We've got a couple different membership levels here. So if you are brand new to onX, when you create your account and download the app, that will start a free trial for you. And that free trial lasts for 7 days. And that gives you kind of basically what we call a premium membership for those 7 days. So a premium membership, there's two different premiums. It can get kind of confusing. I'll do my best to explain. So yeah, you've got a premium 1 state and premium 2 state. The only difference between those two is the amount of state layers you have access to. So if you have the 1 state, you choose Maryland or Alaska or whatever state, you're going to get property ownership information, hunting units, any sort of like access programs, like walk-in access, things like that for 1 state. If you need access to 2 states, that's what the 2 state premium membership is for. So that can be Hey, I hunt Pennsylvania and New York every year, or I live on the border of North and South Dakota. I hunt both of them. Two-state membership's great for you. If you're somebody who's from, North Carolina and you travel to Idaho to elk hunt every year, that's a great use for the two-state membership. Our full spectrum membership is our elite membership. So the elite membership gets you access to all 50 states, plus Canada. Happy belated Canada Day to any of our Canadian listeners. That was yesterday, so sorry we missed it. But the elite membership gets you access to all 50 states plus Canada, and it also gets you access to a few different tools within the app that are elite specific. Some of those we'll touch on tonight. Some of them are beyond the scope of a 101, but when we come across those, I'll call those out. Some of our imagery options and things like that are elite only. And the elite membership also gets you access to what we call our elite benefits or our elite pro deals. So there are a variety of different kind of categories. So in one category is educational content. We've created a bunch of educational content. We've also partnered with outside partners that produce educational content. So things like we have a shed hunting course on there. We worked with Mossy Oak on a turkey hunting academy. We've got classes on shooting, both kind of Western and Eastern shooting styles. So more close range woodland type shooting and more long range type shooting, rifle shooting, firearms shooting. We also have partnered with Hunt and Fool for, Hunt and Fool is kind of one of the authorities on applications, tag applications, letting you know what it costs to apply for different states, what type of tags you might be interested in putting in for, which units, are more physically demanding, which are more easy, things like that. So you get a free Hunt and Fool membership. You also get access to just some discounts on gear with partner companies that we use. So we've got discounts for Mossy Oak First Light clothing, Schnees and Lacrosse boots, Weatherby, Final Rise hunting vests, dog kennels, optics, all kinds of different stuff on there. So if you're somebody who's looking at buying some new gear, check out those elite benefits. You can save yourself some serious money there. All right, I'm going to flip over to my tablet here so that I can pull up the app. And if you have the app, if you're watching this on like your computer, for example, and you want to follow along, I highly recommend pulling your phone out if you're able to. I understand a lot of people are probably watching me on their phone right now, so that makes things a little bit difficult. But if you are watching on a computer, another device, and you can pull up a phone or tablet and follow along, that is a great option. All right, so here we are. We're within the onX Hunt map. I am on an iPad right now, so if you're on a phone, things might look just a little bit different just because of the size of the screen, but everything still works the same. Similarly, if you're on an Android device, a few of the buttons might have different styles, just the different platform there, but everything's the same across, just might look a little bit different. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into our map layers. Now this button is in the lower left-hand corner of the app. When I tap on that, I have a bunch of different folders or collections here. So you see I have Canada listed at the top, and then I have Montana, and then some nationwide folders. We call them current conditions, land and access, roads, trails, and rec. We'll get into those in a bit, but for right now, since I'm in Missoula, Montana, it's where onX was founded, where we're based, I'm going to go into my Montana folder. So I'm just going to tap on that. And I've got some layers turned on by default here: private lands, government lands, and hunting districts. When you go into your state folder, you should see something similar to this. Of course, if you're not in Montana, it might say Wisconsin or Florida or whatever. But you're going to see private lands, you're going to see hunting lands, and in almost every state, you're going to see some form of hunting districts. They might be called something else. Each state uses their own vernacular. In Montana, we call them hunting districts. Some states, they might be game management units, deer permit areas, hunting zones, right? But they're all just kind of showing those, where they break up the state by the different units or districts. So as I start to zoom in on my map, if you look at the top half of my screen here, as I zoom in, you see more information starts to populate on the map. So what I'm looking at right now, these are private parcels. So as I zoom in, you start to see those orange lines on the map, and you see some of the names starting to pop. If you're not seeing that and you have a paid membership or a trial, if your map looks more like this, you might have turned that layer off. And that's one of the hot tips I want everyone to take away from this class. If something's not looking right on your map, if you're like, man, I should be seeing some information here. I know there's a layer. I know I've got a paid membership. Why am I not seeing private lands? First thing to do is go into your map layers and make sure that the private lands layer is turned on. It's easy to turn off and forget about it. So first thing is to double check that. If I zoom out a bit, you start to see some portions of my map are color coded. These are the government lands or public lands. Again, that's a layer I can turn on and off. So if you're looking for public lands near you, make sure you have the government lands layer turned on for your state. And if you're looking for more information about an area, we don't have like a formal legend like you might be used to on a paper map where it has kind of a key or a legend telling you what everything is. We don't have that in the onX app. I'm seeing somebody saying they're not seeing my screen share. Brian said we're not seeing your screen share. Corey says it's working for me. If I could get a few people, seeing a bunch of people saying they can see it. If you're not seeing it, you may have to maybe log out and rejoin in. Pretty much. All right, everybody, I get it. you can see it. So we've confirmed it's working for most folks. So as I was saying, if you want more information about something on the map, whatever you see, just tap on the map. So I just tapped on, our office here, and it's going to pull up this information card. And I'm just going to drag it up so you can see what's included there. It's going to give you the owner of the private parcel, whether that's an LLC, like our office here is, or whether it's just an individual's name, John Doe, or if it's a family partnership or a limited trust or something, whatever is on like the tax rolls at the local county, that's where we get this information from. It's going to give you the owner. It's going to give you the tax address. Now, the tax address is where they get their mail. It's not necessarily the address of that parcel. Oftentimes it will be, but not all of the time. So especially if you're looking for, you see a bunch of geese in a field and you want to maybe get permission for the morning to hunt that field, you'll have the tax address of that person. It might be too late to send a letter in that case, but right now is a pretty good time to start sending out letters if you haven't been already to seek permission. If you're looking to deer hunt, waterfowl hunt, upland hunt, whatever, some private land and you don't have that person's phone number, send them a letter. Don't do it the night before hunting opener. Don't do it during season if you can avoid it. Sometimes you have to, but being ahead of the curve, especially if we're talking agricultural land, if it's the fall and people are harvesting, man, they're busy. So if you can try to reach out to folks this time of year, is often going to be more successful for you. I'm going to close out of this and I'm going to go over to some public land here. So same thing, our government lands or our public lands are all color coded. And the more you use the app, the more second nature it's going to be. I've been using the app for a long time now, so I just kind of know by memory what green means, what yellow means, what blue means, etc. So we've got all these different colors. So here's a parcel nearby. If I tap on it, it tells me BLM, Bureau of Land Management. If I scroll over a little bit, green here is going to tell me Forest Service. Blue land is going to be state land. All right, so if you see that filter on your map and you're not quite sure what it is, just tap on it. That's going to tell you the information you're looking for there. If I zoom out a little bit, these green lines with the green numbers, those are the hunting districts. And again, your state might call them something different. I'm located in Montana, so a lot of my examples today are going to be Montana just because that's where I am. But this information applies no matter where you are. So these are showing all of the different districts. But one thing to keep in mind is many states break up their districts differently depending on the species. So if I go into my layers again, I'm going to back out. And folks, I see there's a lot of questions coming into the chat. Reminder, we're not answering questions in the chat. Please put them in the Q&A. That's where our customer support team is going to be able to answer them for you. So instead of putting them in the chat, please put them in the Q&A. Back to map layers. So again, lower left-hand corner, tap on Montana. And then for Montana hunting districts, that's the third one down there. You see it says view options. And to the right where the on-off switch is, there's a number 17. That tells me there's 17 sub-layers for Montana hunting districts. Your state might not do this, but many of them do. So in Montana, we have deer and elk hunting districts. That's picked by default. In most states, your big game or your deer units are going to be selected by default because that's what the largest number of hunters pursue that game. But if you're looking for, migratory bird hunt districts, turn that on. Now you see how my map changed. And you see we have those different districts in Montana. I'm hoping to draw an antelope tag here. Those results come out in a little over a month in Montana. So I can turn on the antelope hunt districts. And so those are different, right? I go back to deer and elk. So double check that. That's a common reason people reach out to us. I used to be in customer support here before starting my current role. And I can't tell you the amount of times I've talked to somebody on the phone and they were just like, man, your numbers are way off. Your district lines are wrong. I'm looking at, the game and fish. Wyoming sticks in my head because we used to get a lot of calls from Wyoming on this. And what was happening was they were looking at our map and they maybe had like the mule deer districts or the mule deer units turned on, but they were looking for antelope and they're different. So double check and make sure you have the right species selected, whether it's when you're doing an application or when you're actually going out on a hunt. You want to make sure you have the correct information so you can stay legal there. Want to talk about one more layer in my state folder, and then we'll get to some of these nationwide layers. So in Montana, I want to talk about the block management layer. So block management is Montana's public access program for private lands. I think it's over 25 states have a program like this now. These are pretty cool programs where landowners are compensated, whether it's by a per hunter day or just like a flat stipend or flat payment every year. But they're compensated for allowing public access to their lands. And there's always a certain set of rules that go along with it, what you can and can't do, what you can and can't hunt. So in North Dakota, this is called plots, private land open to sportsmen. Kansas is famous for their WIHA, walk-in hunter access. Some states call it access yes. I believe that's Idaho. Sometimes just walk-in access, open fields and waters. Again, a lot of states have this and more states are coming on board. But what this looks like, so right now in Montana, for example, since none of these block management areas are open because there's not a hunting season in right now, these are grayed out. So this is an example of a block management area nearby. During the season, let me see if I can find one. There are a few that are open year round. So here's an example of what this block management layer looks like. It's the red dots with a black border around it. I understand in this example, man, it's a little bit hard to see. These are all a little tough to see with the topography there. But this is what you're looking for. No matter what state you're in, your walk-in program, whatever it's called, is going to be styled like this. So it's private land. If you want to learn more about it, tap on it. So here, this is the section I'm looking at here is near the top where it says Montana Block Management Areas. It'll have a name of that area. Some states, they're just numbered. It'll have some information in there as far as open and close dates. And then the big thing here is this area info. There's a link there that will send you to the state website that will tell you kind of what you need to know. So if I click on this, it'll bring me to the PDF file. And this is straight from Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. Again, if you're in a different state, it's going to bring you to their website. But this tells us where these lands are, what the rules are. So this one's, non-motorized public access, no explosives, pack out all your waste, kind of all that usual stuff. It'll tell you what game is allowed. Some block management areas, they say this is just for waterfowl hunting, no big game, etc. So do your diligence, click on that link so that you're, staying legal and able to use that land, and so that we're being respectful of landowners, and so that they continue to enroll in that program and open up access for us. It's a pretty good system there. All right, let's talk about some of our nationwide layers. So these other folders, these non-state folders, current conditions, land and access, roads, trails, and rec, trees, crops, and soil, and wildlife layers. These are all showing information nationwide. And so I understand why this causes confusion. If you have a premium membership, meaning, a one state membership, you still have access to this information. It's still going to show you information outside of your chosen state. So if you have premium for Wisconsin, for example, you can still go into current conditions here and turn on the active wildfire layer and see wildfires outside of Wisconsin, right? So these are, with any level of paid membership, you have access to these. And this active wildfire one, this time of year, a lot of people reach out to us and they say, man, I know there's a fire near me in New Mexico, but I don't see the wildfire layer under New Mexico. I'm just using New Mexico as an example. It's because it's a nationwide layer, so it's in this current conditions folder. So this is one I have turned on pretty much all the time. Let me see if I can find a fire. Here's one. So this is what this layer looks like. This is a wildfire in Montana. It's named the Jericho Mountain Fire. It's got this little flame icon there. And then the red is showing the perimeter of the burn. If I want more information, I sound like a broken record, I'm going to tap on it. And this is important, where it has those two dates, down at the bottom. So this is going to tell you when we last checked the reporting agency. In this case, it's probably the U.S. Forest Service. We will ping the data source multiple times a day. I think we do it like 4 times a day for updated information. We will let you know when they last updated. So we've checked today, July 2nd. Source hasn't updated since June 30th. It's a couple days ago. So this information's a couple days old. That lets you know, how reliable this information is. We're not going to extrapolate. We're not going to make guesses and say, well, the fire's probably doing this. We're going to go with what the managing agency, what the responding agency is telling us. We're not going to guess. So this is a couple days old. It's not too bad, to be honest. Sometimes it'll be a week, 2 weeks out. You might say, man, this fire is probably quite a bit different. You can, if you remember what the weather has been, oh man, it's been cold and rainy a lot. That fire maybe hasn't spread a lot. Maybe it's shrunk. If it's been really hot and windy over the last 2 weeks, 10 days, that fire's probably changed a fair bit. So double check that. Check when we last checked. It should always be today's date, unless you're checking at like midnight 30. But then double check that source updated. So this one, it's a couple days old, 481 acres burned, estimated 97% contained. So they got it pretty well contained at this point. So if I zoom out, you can see, some of these icons, even in states I don't have turned on. There's Oregon, California, Washington, Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, etc. So you can see where those fires are burning. Some of these won't have a perimeter, because sometimes these will just be like a controlled burn or a prescribed fire. Um, so that's a good indication of that if they don't have a perimeter. Sometimes it just means that fire's just started and they haven't mapped it out yet. Like this one, it says an approved perimeter has not yet been released. Okay, back into our layers. We're not going to go over every layer in here. That would take all night and probably into the morning. But check out some of these. One of the new ones is the cell coverage layer. That's going to give you an idea of what kind of cell phone coverage you can expect where you are. We have the three major carriers, Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile in there. You can choose in the sub layers there. It's pretty accurate. It's pretty good to let you know what kind of cell coverage you can expect in a given area. Moving down one from current conditions to the land and access folder. There's a couple in here I always have turned on. The wilderness areas layer, that's going to show you federally designated wilderness. I'm looking at the Bob Marshall Wilderness right now. That's the area that's grayed out and has that hash mark over it. So those are your non-motorized, big W wilderness areas. If you don't want to see that, you can always turn it off. That's the nice thing I tell people with layers. Sometimes talk to people like, man, these layers aren't useful for me. Great, that's fine. Just turn them off. I work at onX and there's a fair number of layers. I don't use that much just for where I hunt and my style of hunting. That's the nice thing is you can always turn them on and off. Going down, the next one I have turned on all the time is the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service hunt areas. So that is going to show, like this is a refuge south of town here. That's going to show you more information about refuges. A lot of refuges allow hunting, but they often have different rules associated with them. So this is a refuge nearby that they allow waterfowl hunting and they allow archery deer hunting. Those are the only two types of hunting they allow. There's turkeys there, there's pheasants there. You can't hunt them on this refuge. They're broken down into different units. So along the southern end here, this is the waterfowl unit. It says waterfowl, special regs apply. If I go north, there's some no hunting areas. That's kind of the common visitor areas where people go to view ducks and they have educational programming and stuff there. And then there's the archery area. Again, if you want more information, tap on the map. And this one, again, we will link you to the Fish and Wildlife Service website so that you can get the information you need. Some of these refuges are closed on certain days of the weeks, or they allow this type of hunting on these days, this type of hunting on these days. There might be a box you have to sign in and out at, things like that. So double check that before you go. Couple other land and access. Some of the ones I have turned on, the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, Pheasants Forever, Quail Forever, Ducks Unlimited. These are sometimes just neat to see where they've done conservation work, where they've done land acquisitions. So here's an area that the Elk Foundation, this used to be private land. The Elk Foundation was able to acquire it and convey it to the Forest Service. It's now public. So if you're a member of one of those organizations, sometimes it's kind of neat to see where your money's going, what they're doing with it on the ground. So check those out. Scrolling down, roads, trails, and rec. So these are, again, I think some underrated layers here. I'm going to go to Mount Sentinel, right outside Missoula here. Pretty popular hiking area, just to demonstrate the trails layers here. So I'm going to turn these off. So there's Mount Sentinel. There's a lot of hiking that goes on there. But if I don't have the trails layers turned on, I don't necessarily know where those trails are. So I can turn on that top trails layer. Now I'm starting to see some black and white lines showing me those hiking trails. If I want more information, I'll turn on the trail slope. This one's really cool for just being able to tell at a glance how steep a trail is. It's color coded from green to red, green being the flattest, red being the most steep. So you can use that to plan out your hikes, plan out your hunts. If you might look at an area and say, man, there's a lot of red trails there, that's probably going to keep a lot of other people out. Maybe that's where I want to go. On the other hand, you might say, I got a deer down or I got an elk down and I want to get it out the easiest way possible. Let's see if there's any trails around me. And maybe there's some that are green that are going to be the easiest to hike this out on. Um, you can also turn on the mileages. That's going to give you an estimate kind of from point to point. You see those red and white dots. It might be tough to see on a small screen like this, but red and white dots showing you, from this point to this point, it's 0.6 miles, things like that. Recreation sites, I also always have turned on. These are going to show you boat launches, license vendors, campgrounds, trailheads, mines. We even have some breweries in there, I think. Yep, we still got a bunch of them for your post-hunt refreshments. So that's another one if you're looking for a campsite. If you're looking for, hey man, I know there's a fishing access site here. Oh, there it is, right there. It's got the icon on it. The last layer in this folder I want to talk about is this motorized roads and trails. This one flies under the radar, and I wish more people would use it. This one is going to show you, like the name says, motorized roads and trails, primarily on public land and mostly on Forest Service. That's where a lot of this data comes from. The Forest Service has a more robust data set built out than like the BLM does, or some of your state agencies. So that's these purple and white lines. And if I zoom in a bit, you'll see a bunch of different lines here. Western Montana, outside of wilderness areas, we've got a lot of roads. Now, these roads are kind of different levels, different conditions. I don't know the right way to describe it, but some receive maintenance every year. Some haven't received maintenance since the last logging truck left. So a lot of these are logging roads that were punched in, when these areas were logged. And so you've got these purple and white roads. Those are going to receive the most maintenance. Those are going to be the most well-traveled typically. And if you tap on one, it's going to tell you the name of the road, Vista Ridge in this case, the road ID number, and then the important information here I want you to focus on are the accessible by and the open and closed dates. So this one says accessible by high clearance 4x4 and side by side. So what that means is if you're going to drive this road, you probably want a four-wheel drive vehicle and you probably want something with some decent ground clearance. Your stock truck, like that's what I drive, is a stock GMC half ton, may or may not be okay on this road. There's no real way to know for sure until you get there, but if you are an off-roader and you've got a Jeep or a Tacoma or you name it with, maybe a bit of a lift on it and bigger wheels and tires, that's high clearance 4x4, right? Side by sides, your Razor or your Can-Am, etc. If we find one that says, let me find one that says like overland. Overland is going to be your passenger vehicles, like this road, Tourist South, overland. These are going to be, I still wouldn't necessarily take a lowrider on it, but I've seen minivans and cars on some of these. Again, what your vehicle is capable of. But overland basically means like your highway legal vehicles. The open dates are important because a lot of these roads close down seasonally. In a state like Montana, we close a lot of them down at the start of archery season. Then another segment closes at the start of rifle season. Then another segment closes at the end of rifle season. Now, this is, sometimes it's in response to just trying to spread out hunting pressure. Oftentimes it's to protect winter range and calving areas. So we have a lot of roads in Montana that don't open until May 16th, like this one. Some of them are like June 16th, because that's where the elk calve, and they don't want motorized vehicles going in there when the elk are at a very vulnerable time of the year. So you can still walk these roads, but you just can't, there'll be a closed gate, right? So double check that before you go. Years ago, when I first moved to Missoula, I got caught. I was heading out spring bear hunting. It was, I don't know, first or second week of May. Drove out to an area on Saturday. There was a closed gate. I'm like, what the heck? I hunted this area in the fall and it was open. It's because that road didn't open until May 16th because they had it closed seasonally. So don't do that. Save yourself the time and aggravation. Last one I'm going to talk about in here is the trees, crops, and soil. Again, there's a ton of different layers in here. We don't have time to go through all of them. The timber cuts and the historic wildfire are the two I use the most. Timber cuts is going to show you logging on federal land, primarily on Forest Service. I think there's some up here. So here's some. You see there's 2014 on my map, meaning this area was logged in 2014. Might be tough to see on your end, but you can see a little bit of a different filter there showing where those areas were logged. On this one, you can even see it in the aerial imagery, right? It's just a little bit thinner in some of those areas that were logged. We do have state data for some states. So I know Minnesota, that's where I'm from. I have some, knowledge of that. Pennsylvania, we also have a state data set. So you would have to go under Minnesota, Pennsylvania, et cetera, if you're looking for that. So if you're looking for information on state lands, not every state has a data set, but a few of them do. So if you're looking for it on non-federal land, check those. The other big one here is the historic wildfire. It's kind of well known now that animals like burned areas. Not while it's burning, but after the fact. So this was a pretty big fire last year near Missoula, the Miller Peak fire. This is going to show you the area that was burned, let you know the year. And as they get older, the color changes. So that Miller Peak fire was orange. It's last year. It's pretty fresh. This tan area is the Lolo Peak fire from 2017. So it's older. Every year it gets faded a little bit more. Here was one from 2022, another one from 24. And you can tap on them. I know I sound like a broken record, but it'll tell you Sherritt Creek, 3,200 acres, put out in August of 24. Great areas to look for if you're a morel hunter. We're probably at the past the season for that, but in the spring, morels love burns. Elk, deer, bears, they got that fresh green growth coming up there. Even some grouse hunting goes on there. I'm a grouse junkie, so be prepared for some grouse references in this class. So that's a layer I turn on a lot when I'm scouting. I don't use it a whole lot in the field because it does obscure the imagery a little bit. By the time I'm in the field, especially if I'm in this area, if I'm any kind of, woodsman, I know that a fire occurred here by that time, right? You can see it. So I'll turn that one off when I'm in the field. I use it more for e-scouting than anything. We're going to move away from layers now. I know there's a ton more layers in there. We just don't have time to go through it all. We're already more than a half hour into the class. My biggest piece of advice, whether it's layers or anything else, spend some time in the app. Spend some time poking around. Turn layers on and off. The more time you spend in the app, it sounds like a cop-out answer, but that really is one of the best ways to learn how to use this system. If you're brand new, or maybe, I know a lot of folks have probably had the app for a while, but just aren't super comfortable with it. I use the analogy, it's like if I get a new bow or a new shotgun, I'm not going to just start using it the week before season or the day of. I'm going to start shooting now. I'm going to start practicing with that bow, that shotgun, that rifle. I'm going to break my new hunting boots in well before season. onX is no different. There is a learning curve, but it's pretty short. Spend, 20 minutes a night poking around onX, turning on and off layers. You'll get to that intermediate to expert level rather quickly. Okay. Going down from map layers, along the bottom of my screen, I've got a toolbar there. In the lower left-hand corner, there's a button that says Offline Maps. When I tap on Offline Maps, I get a menu like this, and I've got a few different things here. I've got some old maps that I have saved. We'll get to these in a bit. And I have a button that says New Offline Map. I'm going to move. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to move the map to the area I'm interested in going to. So let's go up here. We're going to go kind of that Missouri River Breaks country. I didn't draw a tag there this year, but maybe one of you did. New offline map. I'm going to tap on that. Then I've got this box on my screen. Whatever is within this box is what's going to be saved for offline use. So I'm just using one finger right now. I'm moving the map around. I can still position it how I want. I can zoom out a little bit. That's as big a map as I can save. If I keep zooming, it doesn't get any bigger. I can make it smaller, however. As I zoom in, if I only need this portion, I can zoom in to just save the area I need. Personally, I save as big a map as I can because it's one of those things I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So I'm going to get this lined up. Yep, that looks pretty good. That's the area I want to save. Then down below, I have three different options to choose my map detail. What we're referring to in detail is the resolution of the aerial imagery, low, medium, and high. Medium is chosen by default. If you're hunting the West, or if you're an upland hunter, waterfowl hunter, and you're going to be driving around a bunch, 9 times out of 10, I'm picking the medium because sometimes you just need to be moving around a lot to find the game. When I go back to northern Minnesota to our family deer camp, I'll choose the high detail level because it's a smaller map. We've got our hunting camp, it's been there for 50 years. We've got kind of our set stands. That's where we're hunting. I'm not going to hop in my truck and drive 20 miles like I might do when I'm elk hunting or pheasant hunting in Montana. We've got our, 20 or so deer stands in our camp. That's where we're hunting. So I don't need a big map. So tailor it to your needs. For this example, I'm going to use the medium. The medium does have slightly less image resolution, meaning the aerial imagery is going to get a little bit fuzzy when I zoom in. I've not found that to be a hindrance to me in 7, 8 years of hunting the West. I've never had a time where I said, man, I'd have killed that buck if I had a little bit better aerial imagery. The layers are all the same, so you're still going to have, no matter what map detail level you choose, you're going to have your recreation sites, you're going to have your roads, you're going to have your property boundaries. That all is the same. The only difference is your aerial imagery. So if I open this menu up, the next thing to do once I've got my area selected is name the map. Highly recommend you do this, especially if you're going to be saving a bunch of different maps. Once you've got, like on my personal, I have like 60, 70 different offline maps saved. If I just leave the generic timestamp name on there, I don't know what those mean. Whatever system makes sense for you. I will name them after a specific hunt. So if it's a hunt that, I didn't draw Wyoming antelope this year. I was really hoping to, but Point Creep got me. Next year, if I draw Wyoming antelope, I'm going to save a bunch of maps in the unit I draw, and I'm just going to name them like Wyoming antelope. That's what I know. Okay, I've got my map saved for that hunt. Around Missoula, I name them after, like I have one Bitterroot Valley, and I've got most of the Bitterroot Valley saved, or I'll have it be, XYZ mountain, whatever landmark, whatever makes sense to you. Okay. So I'm just going to name this one July class because this is from the July Masterclass. And I'm going to hit the save button. Now that's going to start downloading. You'll see that start ticking away down along the bottom. And I've got this green box showing me where that map is. Once it's saved, it'll be a little bit brighter green. You can see an example of that a bit to the east here. This was a map I had previously saved in a previous class. If I zoom out, you can see I've got maps saved all over Montana. Now, some of these maps, you'll notice, have a red and white boundary around them. This is important. Green means go. So if you have a green boundary around your map, it's good to go. You can use it when you're offline. If it has red and white stripes, it is not downloaded on that device. The most common way you would get into the situation is if you get a new phone. So if you get a new cell phone, your onX app will transfer. You don't have to pay again. You'll just log in with your email and password. All your waypoints will be there, but we're not able to transfer that downloaded map data from your old phone's memory to your new phone's. So you'll have to go in and re-download those maps. You can also tell which maps are good to go and which aren't in this menu down here. Some of these have a green check mark. You're good to go. That's downloaded. Some of them have a down arrow, like this one, Bob Marshall 2. I'm going to click on. It's in the Bob Marshall Wilderness. I know it's not ready to use because it's got that download arrow and a red and white boundary. If I want to use it, all I have to do is tap that arrow. That's going to start downloading it. So you see it plugging away there. You can also offload maps if you'd like. So that's what I did with that Bob Marshall map. I mentioned before saving maps for specific hunts. Last year I had a Wyoming, I had a doe antelope tag in not Wyoming, in Montana. Antelope hunting sometimes takes a lot of driving to find an antelope, where you can hunt them. So I saved a whole bunch of maps to cover up the whole unit, the whole area I could hunt. When I was done with that hunt, since I don't really hunt anything else in that area, it's 7-8 hour drive for me. I offloaded them. So I freed up some space on my phone by removing that downloaded area. I'll show you what that looks like. I'm going to tap on this tobacco roots map. It's got the green box around it. If I'm not going back to the tobacco roots till next year, I can tap on these 3 dots to the right and I can hit remove from device. So now that downloaded data is removed from my storage. So if you're coming up on your storage limit on your phone, you might want to do this for some maps you don't use all the time. When I want to hunt the tobacco roots again, I just go in and re-download it. So it's nice that you don't have to do the entire process over every time. You can just go in and tap that button to start the download. I do this, I mentioned earlier, I go back to Minnesota to deer hunt with family every year. I don't need that map outside of those, that week, 2 weeks out of the year when we're deer hunting. So I'll offload it when I don't need it, just because I don't need that map taking up storage on my phone. I know I saw somebody put in the chat about updating a map. You'll see a lot of these say update available. If I go to this Livingston map, update available. What does that mean? That means something has changed in the map data since I last downloaded that map. Most commonly, this is going to be an update to parcel ownership. Every state and every county is different, but we try to update our private parcel information as often as the county does. Montana's got one of the best systems in the country for ownership updates. Their website's phenomenal. They have really good data and they update. I think it's monthly, most counties, maybe even weekly. So we try to mirror that. Some states it's only once a year, some states it's twice a year, right? It depends. But something's changed in this map. Does that mean I can't use it? No, I can still use this Livingston map if I go there. It will work. So I've talked to people on the phone and they said, man, I was driving out hunting Saturday morning and I had to find a McDonald's or a place with Wi-Fi, a coffee shop to update my maps. Just go hunting. If it says update available and you're on the way to a hunt, go hunt. Don't let it prevent you from getting out and enjoying your hunt. Just means something has changed there. Usually it's not mission critical. If I do want to update it, I just tap on the green check mark and that'll start updating that map. I recommend doing this when you can, but it doesn't have to be every day. It doesn't have to be every week. If you're, it's summer right now, you might not need to update these until August, September, October, whenever kind of the eve of your hunting season. So go through before your hunt and update them. I do it during hunting season. I work at onX, so I can spend a lot of time in the app. I might do it once a week. I'll do it on the weekend or, on Friday before I head out for the weekend, but I'm not necessarily doing it every day. If you want to, go ahead, absolutely, but don't feel like you need to update them all the time. I feel like I'm talking a lot about that, but I've talked to a lot of customers that were real frustrated. They're like, man, you guys are doing updates all the time. And it's like, well, yeah, we want to have the best map information. So update when it works for you, but don't let it be, a hindrance to your hunt. A couple more tips on offline maps before we move on. We often get the question of, man, what do I do to save battery? My number one tip for you when you are in an area without cell service or with very little cell service is to put your phone into airplane mode. The biggest draw on your phone battery in most cases is going to be searching for cell signal. When I go out hunting, especially if I'm in an area with marginal service or no service at all. I put my phone into airplane mode that cuts off any internet or cell connection. Your maps are still going to load if you've got them downloaded beforehand. You're still able to see your location on the map because your GPS receiver in your phone doesn't work over the cell network. It is able to ping satellites just like a handheld Garmin or Lowrance GPS does. So you're able to see your location, you're able to see the map layers, you're able to see the terrain and topography, you're able to mark waypoints, you're able to track yourself, you're able to do all that when you're offline. If you might need to use your phone throughout the day, to make a call or send a text, I'll just pull it out of airplane mode, check to see if I have service, and then, do what I need to do, send that text, put it back in airplane mode to save battery. I do also carry an external power bank. They're pretty ubiquitous now. You can get them at a lot of grocery stores, or any electronics store is going to carry. Um, I have a dark energy one. They're a pretty burly one. They're kind of made for backcountry type folks, waterproof and all that. A lot of good brands out there: Mophie, Otter, um, Goal Zero. Um, Pick one that works for you. And I usually just carry it as a backup. Personally, I don't do a ton of backcountry hunting where I'm in a tent at night. I'm back to the truck or back to my house most of the time, so I can charge it up there. But I do carry a small one just as a backup, especially when it gets cold, because the cold drains your battery quite a bit. All right. Moving on from offline maps. I'm going to move the map back to my location. I'm going to zoom in. Let's talk about our map tools. So again, bottom of the screen where it says tools, center icon, tap on that. And there's a couple different ways to mark a waypoint. We're going to focus primarily on waypoints for this class. That's the most commonly used map markup. So a couple of different ways to mark a waypoint. If I want to mark where I am currently, I'm going to tap the button that says mark my location. That's going to place a waypoint on my location. This is what I use 9 times out of 10 in the field. So when I go out, I kind of have an order of operations, especially if I'm hunting a brand new area. I'll get out, park the truck. Let's say I'm bird hunting with the dog. Get out, park the truck, collar on the dog, get my vest on, shotgun out, get all that stuff set up. I'll hit mark my location and mark where the truck is. From there, I will start a track. I'll demo the tracker here in a few minutes. Then I'll start a track and I'll go on my hunt. So now I have a waypoint of where the truck is. I use mark my location to mark where I flush birds, where I place tree stands and duck blinds, where I see a buck rub or an elk wallow or any kind of sign. It's just a quick way to mark where you are. Let's say I want to mark a spot that's not where I am. Couple different ways to do it. I'm going to scroll my map over and let's just say, all right, I want to mark a spot on the hillside here. To the left of where it says mark my location, I can tap add waypoint. Now this is going to place a waypoint just in the middle of the map. That might not be exactly where I want it to be. That's okay. You can still change it. I'm just tapping the map with my finger right now. That's all I'm doing, just one finger, boop, 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 moving it around. To be more exact, I'm going to want to zoom in. Maybe I want to, looks like there's a spring here. Maybe I want to mark that. Okay, and then hit save. Now I have that waypoint marked. A faster way to do it, and what I do personally when I'm in the field or even at home, let's say I want to mark this kind of creek junction here, right along this trail. I can do what's called a long press. It's literally pressing the map for like 2 seconds. Hold my finger down. That's going to place a waypoint wherever I held my finger down. It is easy to accidentally place waypoints this way. When we first introduced this feature, I was doing it all the time because I would scroll the map and just leave my finger there and it would place a waypoint. You can always hit cancel in the upper left-hand corner. Tap cancel. That'll remove it. But if I do want to keep it, again, just tap on the map, hold my finger there, hit save. Now, The next kind of big thing I want everybody to take away from this class is to customize your waypoints. This red X 6 months from now isn't going to mean anything to me. We have a lot of different ways to customize your waypoint. So if you've got a waypoint placed, tap on it. It's going to bring up the information card about it. On the bottom left corner of the screen, there's an orange button that says Edit. Tap Edit. Just like our offline maps, I'm going to give it a name because this fall, next year, waypoint 7225 doesn't mean anything to me. I might just name this as Creek Crossing. If I could type it correctly, would be helpful. Whatever makes sense to you, elk wallow, truck, house, whatever you want. Give it a name. Next step is change the icon. It's going to be the red X or the orange X by default. If I tap on more, we've got like 90 different ones. Kathy in the chat said she likes this Sasquatch icon. I do as well. So we're going to choose that one, but you could, like I talked about the truck, you could do mountain goat, hazard. I use that in the road. If there's a washout in the road, I'll mark a hazard there so I know where it is. Deer, ducks, caribou, raccoon, whatever. We're going to go with Sasquatch on this one. And then choose a color. Now, I use color. Color's more valuable to me almost than the icon. Color code your waypoints. Now, there's no real wrong way to do this. Everybody has a different system. So personally, I color code mine primarily based off of species. So I'm a generalist hunter. Just about anything the state of Montana lets me hunt, I'm going to hunt. Upland, big game, turkey, waterfowl, you name it. So my deer spots might be this orange color. Okay. And then elk might be green and turkey might be red. Upland bird might be blue. That way, when I'm zoomed out, I know at a glance, blue is upland bird, green is elk, orange is deer. I can just tell at a glance what I'm looking at. A lot of people do it by year and they'll pick a color for the year. So they might say, all right, 2025 is all blue. 2024 was purple. 2026, they're going to be yellow because they like to see that change over time. Another very common way to do it. If you might say, man, I only hunt deer. Great. Then color code your waypoints based on different information that's pertinent to you. So I often use the example, if I was managing a deer property or had, some private land or a deer lease, or even if I was hunting public, but this is my deer spot, I would color code I would make all my tree stands, for example, maybe one color, and buck sign, rubs and scrapes would be a different color. Gates or access points might be a third color. Water holes would be a different color. So you can tell at a glance. Again, do what makes sense for you. Just don't do nothing. So Sasquatch, let's make him brown because that fits with Sasquatch. Then I'm going to hit save. So this means a lot more to me now than just a red X. Trust me, once you get 1,000, 2,000 waypoints like Jack has, you're going to be thankful that you did this work. Now, if you're in the heat of the moment and you're hunting and you flush a covey of quail or there's an elk bugling at you, maybe don't worry about it in the moment. Think about it later on in the hunt. Go back in and type some notes in there or give it a name. Do it after the fact. Your future self will thank you. Trust me. If I want to delete a waypoint, say I don't need this one anymore, I'm going to tap on it. And along the bottom of my screen, if I go all the way to the right, there's a red button that says delete. You may have to scroll on your phone on a smaller screen. It might get cut off. If you scroll over, hit the delete button, and it's gone. One more thing with waypoints. So I marked this one in the office. For right now, in the interest of time, I'm not going to customize it. But let's say I want to share a waypoint with a friend or hunting partner or a loved one back home. I can send this waypoint to them. So I can tap on it like I just did along the bottom of the screen next to the edit button where it says share. Tap on that. And then 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to share it with a link. This will generate a text link that you can text message or email to whoever you want to have it. And so, real world example, I got a friend that's coming with me to Minnesota to deer hunt this year, and I want to share all of our stand sites with them. I can click on the waypoints, hit share, and say, hey, here's my stand, here's your stand, here's my dad's stand, so that they know where all the tree stands are. The nice thing is, they can't then edit those waypoints and they can't share them with anybody else. If you're familiar with like Google Documents, if you've ever shared a Google Doc with somebody and make it read only, that's what we're doing here. So they can see it, they can see all your notes, but they can't share it with anybody else. They can't change the color on your end or anything like that. And you can revoke access if you want. You can always pull that back if you don't want them to see that. Another example, for safety, if you're a solo hunter like I am, send it to a spouse, a significant other, a friend. Say, hey, this is the area I'm planning to hunt on Saturday. If you don't hear from me by such and such time, we always hope nothing happens, but things happen, right? At least they know where to alert the sheriff's office or the search and rescue. This was the waypoint they sent me. This was the area they were going to hunt. So they're at least not starting blind. I used it last year. I shot an elk, sent the waypoint to a couple buddies who were going to help me pack it out. So they knew exactly where the truck was parked. I sent them that waypoint. I sent them my track in, then I sent them the spot where the elk meat was that I had quartered up. So pretty useful, tool there for you. What time do we have? 6:30. We're already an hour in. Whew. Let's talk about the tracker. So the tracker is another tool I use quite a bit. It's along the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. I tap on that, hit the start button. Now this is going to lay a breadcrumb trail everywhere I walked. And this also works when you're offline, just like waypoints do. So this will let you know everywhere you traveled throughout, as long as you had the tracker turned on. Again, another safety thing, especially if I'm hunting a new area, I turn it on so that I can find my way back easily. I use it when I'm blood trailing an animal. Hugely helpful for that. Blood trailing an animal, I can see everywhere I went. Heaven forbid I'd have to start a grid search. At least I can get a good visual of everywhere that I covered. Shed hunters use this a lot, especially when they're trying to match up a shed. They find the first one, they'll put a waypoint, they'll have their tracker running to make sure they're covering all the area around it to find the second set. Sometimes it's just fun to brag to your buddies how far you hiked that day. Sometimes you'd be like, man, I did 12 miles today. I use it a lot when I'm bird hunting, when I'm hunting a cover for pheasants to make sure I hit all the spots I wanted to hit and I got my dog everywhere I wanted. And it's kind of cool to compare, wow, my dog did 4 times as much as I did, or 3 times or whatever. I'm going to hit stop right now. If I had traveled somewhere and wasn't sitting in an office building, I'd have the opportunity to save this. Again, you can color code them. You can give them different names. I'm going to delete because I didn't go anywhere. When a track is saved, you can share it with somebody just like you can a waypoint as well. And when you do have it saved, you'll see your elevation profile as well. There'll be like a graph there showing how your elevation changed along that track, which is kind of cool, especially if you're in a mountainous area, to see how much vert you did in a day. Okay. Let's say you're looking at the map and you say, Jack, I'm not seeing my blue dot. How do I get back to my location? Excuse me, I'm losing my voice from talking so much. I want to get back to my location. Well, in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, there's a button that looks like a crosshair. That's your location button. If I tap on it, it's going to swing the map back to my location. If I tap on it one more time, now it's going to put me into what we often call like heads-up mode or flashlight mode. So actually, let me delete this waypoint because it's a little easier to see without that blocking. So again, tap that location button, tap it a second time. And now instead of north being oriented up on the map, whatever direction my device is facing, is up. So if you're looking at my camera screen here, I'm just holding this iPad in my hand and I'm twisting it around and the map is following with me. So this is something that a lot of folks don't know this is a feature. If you want to just be able to see what's ahead of you without having to do that kind of mental math of, all right, I'm traveling east, but this is north, and this just makes it a little bit more simple, especially if you're hiking, or you're, don't necessarily have your phone in your hand while you're driving, but if you're the passenger in a car and you're navigating, you can have this pulled up. It's just easier to see what's on the right of me, what's on the left of me. We need to take this fork in the road, etc. Just what's up ahead of me? What's the terrain look like? Unfortunately, I'm sitting in town here, so it's not the best example, but everybody in here's, kind of gets the point. Well, let me back up. If I want to close out of this, couple ways to do it. In the upper right-hand corner, there's a compass. If I tap on that, it's going to swing me back to my normal map view with north being up. But let's say I'm in heads up mode here still. If you look in the bottom right-hand corner, again, you'll notice a third icon appeared there. It looks like a compass needle. If I tap on that, it puts me into compass mode. This is a 2-year-old feature. I think we released this in 2023 during the hunting season. This is one of my favorite new features. Now, I don't use it all the time, but when I need it, it's indispensable. Compass mode lets me do a couple of things. One, you'll notice on the left-hand side of my screen, there's some yardage markers. This is just letting me know how far away things are. I've got this grid line coming off of my dot, and it's got some major hash marks on it that correspond with that 276, 207, 138, and 69. The real power of this is when we go into rangefinder mode. So again, bottom right-hand corner, now there's an icon that looks like a handheld rangefinder. If I tap on that, now I can drop remote waypoints with pretty good precision. So this is, I use the example of a couple years ago, I was mule deer hunting and glassed up a mule deer buck. He was bedded in some like junipers and a little far away for a shot. So I was able to kind of, I say stalk closer. I basically just walked down, got to about 270 yards on this little finger ridge. It was eastern Montana, kind of broken, coulee, creek bottom type country. Got to a spot where I was comfortable making a shot. 270 yards was within my effective range. Laid down, had the gun on the bipod, everything set up, and just was going to have to wait for him to stand up to take a shot. So what I did while I was laying there, I laid there for like almost an hour and a half before he stood up, but I took my phone out, pointed it at the deer where it was bedded, used the rangefinder mode. I'd already ranged it with my handheld rangefinder. It was 270 yards. Pointed the phone, and then all I'm doing right now, if you look at my screen, I'm dragging my finger up and down. This is how you can zoom in and out. So 270 yards. Boom. So now I've got that spot. If I hit that orange button above 270, that put a waypoint there. So now I had that exact spot marked on my map. So when the buck eventually did stand up, I shot him, made a good shot. He went just over the other side of the ridge and out of sight. I watched the does that were with him run away. He wasn't with them. I felt good, but it was nice to have that waypoint so I had an exact spot to start blood trailing. Walked up there, got up to where the waypoint was, saw the dirt kicked up, started seeing blood. There he was. He didn't make it, 40, 50 yards. Did I need that waypoint to find the deer? No, but it made things a lot easier and quicker. I even used this in Minnesota. I shot a deer at 12 yards last year. I didn't need this waypoint, but if you hunt in thick country, up in northern Minnesota where I deer hunt, some of those areas in the south and in thick country, northeastern Maine, New Hampshire, that kind of stuff, you climb down from a stand, it looks totally different. And it might have only been a 50, 60 yard shot on a deer, but when I climb down from the stand, there's maybe some thick alder or willows. It's nice to have that waypoint, to have a starting spot, to know where to start blood trailing. You can also use this for planting stocks. If it's, hey, there's, a lot of guys use this turkey hunting in the spring. They'll hear a gobble and you'll kind of estimate, hey, it was that direction, sounded like they might have been in this little wood lot. Let's put a waypoint on it. Guys will use it elk hunting, archery, glassed up an elk on the hillside. We got to drop out of sight and maybe go around the ridge to get our wind right. Mark a waypoint on it. So at least you have a landmark to aim for when you got to stock in 600 yards to get closer to it. A lot of different ways to use this. Again, is it something I use on every hunt? No, I'm not that good. I'm not putting a stock on or getting a shot on an animal every hunt, but I use it a few times a year and it's been very helpful. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing on my tablet here and I'm going to switch over to my computer. So this is the onX web map that you'll see here in just a minute. And this comes free with your membership. So not a lot of people know this, but you get access to onX on your mobile device. You also get access on your computer. To get here, you just need to go to our website, which is onxmaps.com. The upper right-hand corner, there will be a login button. Your login information is the same as it is on your mobile device. So same email and password. And this map's going to look very similar. I'm actually going to refresh this right now. So there's one of those waypoints I just marked. Your content transfers back and forth. Let's see, there's that Sasquatch I just marked. So if you mark waypoints on your mobile device, when you log in on your computer, you'll see all those waypoints and tracks there. And vice versa. If you're doing a bunch of e-scouting, that's where I think WebMap really shines, is with pre-planning and e-scouting. If you mark up a bunch of waypoints on here, when you pull up the map on your phone, you're going to see those waypoints transferred over there automatically. You don't have to do anything to get them to transfer over. You just have to have cell service, of course. So I'm going to get to, let's just go right here. Pick an area with outside of town. And in the lower right-hand corner is our base map button. Now, if you're on a mobile device, this is the same button in your lower right-hand corner. Mine says HYB 2D. Yours might say SAT or Topo, depending on which base map you have chosen. Take a drink of water here. I'm getting hoarse. So here is where you can choose what base map you want to look at. And what I mean by base map is basically like the aerial imagery and the topographic lines. Most folks will have satellite chosen by default. This is satellite imagery, similar to Google Earth and a million other mapping services. Lets me look at the vegetation and the terrain. Personally, especially here in the Rocky Mountains, I don't use this map a whole lot because it's only telling part of the story. What I use is the hybrid, because the hybrid will lay over these topographic lines. Now, if you're a big game or even a small game hunter in the mountains, whether it's Appalachians, Ozarks, Rockies, wherever, you know that terrain sometimes is as or more important than the vegetation. You might be looking for a specific type of slope, like a north-facing slope. Elk like to bed on north-facing slopes when it's hot. Spring bear hunting, you want to look at south-facing slopes because the snow burns off and the vegetation greens up. Late season elk and deer, they might be on these south-facing slopes because the sun burns off some of the snow and it's easier for them to get to the feed. So I use the hybrid a lot. If I don't care so much about the vegetation, I can use this just straight topo map. So the topo map is, like a lot of us used to use the old, you might have gotten like a USGS quads map or gotten a map from your BLM or Forest Service field office showing me the elevation changes, right? I still get my roads, but it's not going to show me the imagery. Couple pro tips here. If you're interested in waterways, The topo and hybrid maps are going to highlight creeks better than satellites. So focus on this Allen Creek here in the center, kind of. If I go to hot satellite, I get the name of the creek, but it doesn't show me the actual creek bed. If I go to hybrid or topo, now I can see this creek a lot better. And some of these creeks have a solid line and some of them have a dashed line. That's important. These solid line creeks are going to be your more reliable water sources. These are more permanent, year-round flowing water. These smaller creeks with the dashed line are more seasonal, or ephemeral is another term for these. They come and go. Spring runoff, full of water most of the time. After a big rainstorm, you might be able to find water. If it's early September and we're in a drought and we haven't had rain for a month, I'm not going to count on there being water in these creeks unless it's an area I know really well. So if you're a traveling hunter and you're wanting, hey, I want to know there's water there because I'm doing a high country mule deer hunt and I'm going to be backpacked up real high and I'm going to need to refill my water every couple of days. I wouldn't rely on a stream like this. I would look for something more with a solid line. Or if you're an upland bird hunter like me and you might want to, it's hot. Hey, we need to maybe have a creek to let the dogs cool down. Don't count on those ephemeral ones again. So again, you got to have hybrid or topo on to see those. And that's another reason why I very rarely use anything besides that hybrid base map. If I go into topo, I do want to highlight a new feature. So if you have an elite membership, you have access to our LiDAR topographic map. This is the regular topographic map is what I have on right now. This is not LiDAR. Looks like a basic map. When I turn on the LiDAR, you can see how much more detailed that becomes. So off, on. Again, this is an elite only feature. It will be on mobile soon. This is only on the web map right now. We're working on getting it on your iPhone and Android phone soon. Not going to make any promises. Software development, there's always unforeseen bugs and things that come up, but we're hoping to have this for you on mobile really soon. I'm pretty excited about it. This will get me to use the topographic map a little bit more often. In some areas, if you're in a real rocky area, you can even see like individual boulders on here. We don't have a ton of that. Like here's kind of one, if I was in the high country of Utah or Colorado, you would see that a lot more. So I'm going to turn that off and I'm going to move to the Midwest to talk about one of our different imagery options. So we've had a lot of folks reach out to us over the years and say, man, I just am not seeing what I need to see because the imagery was taken in the summer and I'd like a fall or winter image. So if I go to this leaf off imagery, I can turn that on. And this is imagery taken after the leaves have fallen. So I'm in Wisconsin here, quite a big difference, right? I can easily tell these are conifers, these are pine, spruce, fir, but the rest is deciduous forest. And I can more easily see these roads here. There's some areas where you can even see game trails really well, or like, in this kind of swale area here. I can see these look like game trails to me. Maybe it's running water. Maybe this is kind of a lower swampy area, but it's a pretty cool option. Now this is like LiDAR. You do have to have an elite membership to access this. This is one of those elite only features, and it's not available in every state yet. So if I move from Wisconsin over to Minnesota, you see this big filter that says no leaf off imagery available. We have it in I believe it's 15 states right now. All of the states we have this for are east of the Rockies. So if you just scroll around, we have it in some areas of Missouri, but not all. We've got Ohio, some areas, Pennsylvania, New York. And we're not picking on states. We're not saying, Maine, we don't care about you. Minnesota. This is just we're taking imagery that's available to us and that we have that is high enough quality. Not every state has it in, commercially available form or in, resolution that meets our standards. We're hoping to expand this to other states. We would like to have as many states as possible. So if your state's not available, we ask you to just please be patient. As it becomes available, we'll be sure to grab it and include it. One more imagery option here is our recent imagery. So I'm going to go to Wyoming here let me see, there's a good spot here. This recent imagery, again, is an elite only feature. It is nationwide. This recent imagery lets me look at imagery that's taken in 2-week chunks. So this is taken by a satellite. It's not as high detailed, not as high of resolution as our regular imagery. It's not meant to be a replacement for our regular aerial imagery. It's meant to be an additional tool. But I'm looking at this right now, and this is between June 9th and 23rd. I can scroll back through time. Now look at it. There's a bunch of snow in here. As I keep going back, there's more snow. You can go all the way back to March of 2023 if you'd like. A lot of snow in the mountains that year. So you can select the date range you want. Maybe I drew a tag for this area of Wyoming. I've never been there before. And my hunt opens in early October. What might this look like? Oh, there's already a little bit of snow starting, at least in 2023 there was. Let's see, what might this area look like? Ooh, by late October, early November, a lot of snow in 2023. What was 2024 like? Is it the same? No snow last year. Now we're starting to get some mid-late October, and then by early November, a lot of snow. So you can use it for planning for hunts this fall. A lot of waterfowl guys use this to check water levels. It might be October of 2025 and I'm going to an area next week. What's it looking like? It might be a week or two old, but it's more reliable than our regular imagery, right? You can check, you can even see kind of what areas are really drought stricken just by how green everything is. Pheasant hunters. Everybody knows, well, not everybody knows, but a lot of people know 3 best days to pheasant hunt. Opening day, the day the crops come out, and the day of the first snow. If you're pheasant hunting I hunt South Dakota, North Dakota, I try to hunt at least one of them every year. If the corn is still standing, that complicates things. Pheasants can go into that cornfield and good luck, if you're able to hunt that corn, good luck finding them. Good luck getting a shot on them. So I can take a look at that imagery and say, all right, what's the crop harvest looking like? Is a lot of the corn coming out? I might look at the most recent image and say, yeah, it looks like they've started to harvest some of it. And this image is from a week or two ago. Now I know, hey, there's probably a bunch more of that corn that's come out. Or if I look at it and say, nothing's come out, and I know it's been really wet recently, and the farmers aren't going to be able to get their equipment into the fields maybe, I can say, we need to maybe avoid those areas with the thick cornfields, and we need to hunt a different part of the state, or we need to focus on, different cover types that's away from the corn, because that's where the birds are going to be. We've had people use this ice fishing quite a bit, believe it or not, to check ice levels and see where ice roads are going across and things like that. So again, that's an elite only feature, but do take a look at it. I think you'll find it pretty interesting. Last thing I want to talk about before we get to Q&A is the search. Question I hear a lot is, hey, I've got waypoints on a GPS or a buddy gave me coordinates. Can I search for them? Can I place a waypoint from a set of coordinates? Yes, you can. On my web map here, it's in the upper left-hand corner. On your phone, it's going to be in the upper right-hand corner. It's a small icon. It's hard to see. Upper right-hand corner, it's going to look like a magnifying glass. If you tap on that, that's going to give you your search bar. You have 2 options, location and private land. To search for coordinates, we want location selected, and you want to search for them with in decimal format. So if you're not If you don't have them in decimal, if they're in UTM or degrees, minutes, seconds, convert them. All kinds of free converters, just, Google or your favorite search engine, GPS coordinate converter, latitude, longitude converter, get them converted to decimal. And then I'm just going to type them in. You can copy and paste as well. So I'm going to go 47 degrees north. You can go out to, I believe it's 5 decimal points. The more specific you can be, the better. You don't need a comma in between the coordinates, but your second coordinate, your longitude, needs to be negative. If you don't put that minus sign in there, it's going to put you in the Eastern Hemisphere. You're going to end up in Europe or Asia or Africa or something. I'm just going to go 101.0000. This is what I'm going to click on down below here in the results. When I click on it, it's going to swing my map there and put this little icon there. If I want to put a waypoint there, I'll go back to my menu, scroll down, add waypoint. Now I have a waypoint there in North Dakota. There we are. So that's how you can mark a waypoint from a set of coordinates. If I move my map back to Missoula, you can also search for just landmarks or locations. I could search for Fergus County, Montana, and click on it. It's going to swing me over to Fergus County. I can search for Glacier National Park. Choose what I want here, Glacier National Park. There I am in Glacier. You can search for lakes, mountain peaks, towns, what have you. If you're looking for a landowner, click on private land and then type the name in and be as specific as you can. So if I type in Smith, I'm getting a lot of results. If I type in Smith John, still get a lot of results, but it's closer. These are my results here, and you'll notice these are all in Montana, or most of them. One's in Idaho. Your search results are going to be prioritized based on what your map is looking at. We're in northwestern Montana here, so my results are going to be northwestern Montana, northern Idaho. If I was looking for a John Smith in Virginia, I would want to move my map to Virginia. That's just going to help the system give you better results. If you know John Smith's middle name or middle initial, John G. Smith, the more specific you can be, the better results you're going to get. If I'm not quite sure, I can just start clicking on these. Click on this one. This one's over by Spokane. Maybe that's not it. I'll go back. I'm going to click on this one in Idaho. You can just keep clicking on the results till you get the one that you need. So that's how you do a search. I went through that pretty fast, but I hope that is helpful to some folks. I am going to go back to my presentation here. I know we're at an hour and a half. Thank you everybody for sticking around. I always say I'm going to try to go through this a little bit faster, and then I don't. So couple things before we sign off. If you don't have an onX Hunt membership currently, we have a discount for you. You can use promo code app101 to save 30%. You can also type in this link in orange. If you type that into your browser, that will take you right to our purchase page and that discount will be applied for you. Do not try to use a promo code through the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. It will not work. They will charge you full price. Promo codes have to be used on our website, so you might as well save yourself 30% if you don't have a membership. Use that promo code app101 and you'll save some money there on your first year. If you're having trouble with the promo code, don't forget our customer support email is help@onxmaps.com. Great resource for you. They'll get that promo code applied for you and save you 30% there. If you want to learn more, check out our website. We've got a ton of tutorials on there in our help center. If you're more a fan of reading written directions, that's kind of how I prefer to learn a lot of times. You can read a lot of our help articles there. Our YouTube channel has a lot of good demos. You can also go to our YouTube channel and click on playlists. So you go to onX Hunt on YouTube, click playlist. You'll see the Masterclass playlist. We've got a couple hundred classes there. We've been doing these for a few years. So some of them are old 101s. Some of them are more specific turkey hunting master classes, elk calling, upland bird hunting. We just did one on building a possibles kit with John Barklow. That's up there. Mention customer support. They're all US based folks. You can give us a call or shoot us an email. Any questions you have, let us know. And then check out future classes. Next week, we're going to be doing a backpack hunting class with Brad Brooks from Argali. Super excited about that one. I'm going to do one specifically on organizing content and using folders. We're going to talk about some of our trail camera tools towards the end of July. We also do a 101 pretty much every month. So if you just want to sit through my hour-and-a-half long spiel again, you like the sound of my voice, you're certainly welcome. You can also send it to a friend who needs to get schooled up on onX. We'll do another one here in July, or in August, I should say. We'll probably do that one second half of August, try to tailor it right when a lot of hunting seasons are opening or are about to open. We are also doing a giveaway. So I'm going to ask one of our customer support folks to drop this giveaway link in the chat. We're giving away some of our onX Hunt bandanas. That giveaway is open until midnight tonight. So I am going to, give me a second here. I'm going to drop this link in the chat. I'll be right back with that screen in a moment here. I'm going to throw the link in the chat. And then I'm going to turn the chat off for just a minute here. So you're not going to be able to, well, somebody beat me to it. The link is at the bottom of the chat. So I've turned the chat off just so that link doesn't disappear for anybody. Some phones won't let you open that link from Zoom. It's like a security thing. You might have to copy and paste it or write it down. Like I said, it's open till midnight tonight. So if you're watching this on the recording, it's no longer open. Get yourself entered. I'll email the winners tomorrow. You can win one of these sweet bandanas, and I'll get them emailed out to you tomorrow. And then let's see if we have any Q&A left. Customer support didn't send me any live questions. They must have gotten them all handled right now. Let's see. I should stop the share. Looks like there's no more open questions in there. So, want to thank everybody for joining tonight and sticking it out till the end. You don't know how much I appreciate everybody taking the time to learn a little bit more about using onX. And again, if you have any questions, shoot us an email, give us a call, spend some time in the app. It really is the best way to learn. And hey, hopefully some folks have some time off for the 4th of July this weekend. Get out there and enjoy it. If you're out on the lake or camping or doing something with family, man, pull up onX and practice. Mark your campsite, mark where you're going, practice with it so that you're ready to go by this fall. So thanks again, everybody, for joining us. Hope you have a good, safe 4th of July weekend, and we hope to see you on a future masterclass.